Ever since I turned 16 last summer, I was a part of the Clockwork crew. To an outsider, we might seem like a bunch of skinhead punks, but we're actually really mature and really cool if you get to know us. We believe in preserving the white race through any means necessary. We're kind of a big deal. Last month or so, I made a huge mistake, and I don't know if I will make it to the end of the week. Well, here we go. I unboxed a John Gahagan Funko Pop alone at midnight, and I wish I didn't. I was out on my daily patrol with my squadron, 4 large and imposing young men swelling with a zest for the white race. We, as usual, were doing our designated duties around our local shopping mall, enlightening the melanin-infested areas with informative flyers and spreading visually captivating stickers around in order to reawaken the Faustian spirits of the unwashed masses. After a long day of saving the white race, our squad leader decided we should take a small break. Luckily, there was a GameStop nearby where we could relax and enjoy all the anime/gaming material we desired. As we went in, the cold air conditioner refreshed my skin and reinvigorated me with the spirit of my ancestors, and luckily for me, they were having a sale on the greatest novelty collector's item known to man. Funko Pops, I said to myself quietly. I immediately went inside the GameStop and looked around at their collection of Funko Pops. Maybe I thought to myself they would have a rare collectible one. I know that one of our comrades in the Telegram has one of them. Then I saw something strange but alluring, a lone Funko Pop. But it didn't resemble any of the characters they would produce. It was John Gahagan? But why? I looked at the box and inspected every detail I could. Limited print, John Gahagan Funko Pop, Chase Edition. I couldn't believe it. "Oh my Wotan," I exclaimed with sheer joy. It was even signed. "That'll be $14.88, please," said the humble but ignorant cashier. As we scrounged enough money to pay, we chuckled at the witty price. "This is the greatest thing I've ever seen," said Mateo, our squadron leader. "How did you even find this?" I quickly replied, It just came to me. It's almost like it picked me." While I was joking then, I now know that this pop was more than just an ordinary plastic figurine. It was something else entirely. As we went home, we eventually agreed that we would each take turns keeping the John Gahagan Pop in our possessions each night, bringing it with us around town as a sort of mascot and taking cheeky photos with it. We playfully argued who would keep it for the first night for quite a while, until Jurgen spoke up and said Xavier found it first. He should be the first one to take it home with him. Jurgen looked me straight in the eyes and winked. He was truly a good friend, but now I wish he didn't say that. At my house, it was relieved to see my mother's boyfriend Alessandro was out on the town and wasting his life away at the local pub. If he had seen me, he would have ripped my Gahagan Funko Pop to shreds. Now that I think about it, I do not know if that would have made the situation better or somehow even worse. The pop was still in the box, mint condition. I dared not to open it yet due to its elusivity. Should I scalp it on eBay? No, this isn't some trinket or toy. It's an one-of-a-kind John Gahagan Funko Pop. And it's mine. I put the box next to my large collection of other Funkos I own. I have them all. Funko cereals, Funko sodas, Funko lunch boxes. If it has Funko in the name, I definitely have it. At the center of it all was my very own Gahagan Pop, like a king on his throne, originally. That's where I put my George Lincoln Rockefeller Funko before Alessandro snapped it in half in a drunken rage because I'm making a mockery of the white man's struggle, or some brown Latinx jargon he learned from Nicolas Fuentes or some other grifter. Knowing this, I locked the door tight just in case his undeveloped mind, even so, glanced at my precious Gahagan Pop. "It's just me and you, little buddy," I whispered to my prized Funko. After a little goon sesh or two, it was time to replenish my vril one snore at a time. However, the Pop had other plans. My mind was racing all night. All I could think of was releasing the John Gahagan Funko out of his cardboard cage once and for all. No! I thought, I have to be strong like what the Clockwork crew want me to be. I tossed and turned, but eventually my temptations won. At around midnight, I lunged from the bed and began to reach for the pop. Luckily then, Mom and Alessandro couldn't hear me, but in retrospect, I know they should have. As I grabbed the box, I noticed something wrong with the Funko's eyes. They were glowing an odd shade of green. At the moment, however, I wrote it off as some glow-in-the-dark feature built in, or the reflection of my bedroom lights. How wrong I was. As I opened the box and lifted the John Gahagan Funko out of it, I noticed not only how oddly dense and heavy it was, but how much it meant me. It felt like I was holding my own newborn son. I was filled with such passionate instinct I could have been on fire and not have looked away for a second. This is what my life has been building up for, I squeaked. I almost thought I was dreaming for a while. Cold air filled the room. A tinge of menthol touched my skin. A voice called out to me, "Wake the fuck up, white man!" I looked on and saw my very John Gahagan Funko Pop staring right at me, with glowing green eyes even more intense than before. "Yipes!" I shouted, as my first instinct was to drop the accused idol on the floor. Plunk. It laid there on the cold ground, but only for a minute. It spoke again. "Pick me up!" No! I shrieked. I was deeply confused at what was going on. "Pick me up! Now!" What felt like a bolt of lightning crawled down my chest, like the possessed pop was pulverizing my insides. "Fine. Whatever makes the pain stop." The pop regained his stare at me and growled, "God! God!" From that point on, I was no longer myself, I was his. I became more and more of a recluse from my squadron while I let them borrow, and by that I mean allow them to fall under the trance and slavery of the pop. I spoke less and less. I was simply following orders like a brain-dead drone. I wasn't me by night. It a different story. My dreams were crowded by the piecing tones of rock against communism. Beats lashed my chest as I pulsated uncontrollably. Visions of my fellow Clockwork crew members with large budging muscles flexed at and manhandled by svelte 315-pound frame. Every evening, the visions became more and more visceral, more and more real. I could feel the sweat beaming off of the muscular skinheads as the RAC flooded my mind. When it come time that the Funko was to return to my adobe, I dreaded it. My body moved on its own, like the Gahagan pop had penetrated it from within. When I walked, it walked through me. I could feel myself slowly being ripped from my flesh. The pop was me, and I was the pop. That evening it spoke to me once more. "No longer will we be mocked. No longer will we be the laughing stock, for we will rule the Earth Boy, you and me." Suddenly, the door broke in two. The perpetrator was Alessandro. He clearly was getting more and more upset with my unholy behavior over the nights, and had finally snapped, "I told yo' ass not to me playing with no motherfucking dolls, biatch." My head turned, and a dark, gravelly voice emitted from it. "You are too late, Zog Chow." My bones contorted into that of a beast. My heart pounded with the fury of a wrathful devil. The Gahagan Funko turned me into its demonic steed. I savagely charged at Alessandro at Cheetah like speeds. He grabbed my deformed body by the neck and suplexed me. "The boy is mine!" bellowed the grotesque Gahagan Funko Pop. Its eyes flew with the light of 1,000 emerald beams. Its small but wrathful head spun rapidly. "Yeah, he's not my son, but he's my Dayum Responso Bilaelte." The pop was deeply interfused with the flesh of my palms, my veins intertwined with its plastic shell. Alessandro's mighty strength was waning, but he had one last trick left before his body gave in. "Unbox this!" he powerfully cried, as he gnawed into the arm I was carrying the accused Funko. What are you doing?" cried the possessed Gahagan pop. "Doing what I should have done a long motherfucking time ago," growled back in pure righteous rage. Alessandro sunk his teeth deep into the ungodly mass of burrowed plastic and infected skin. He thrusted his neck outwards, as within his jaws remained the shredded vinyl mass. My still-possessed body writhed and groaned as my corporeal body twisted and turned. As it violently jostled, it slammed a dazed Alessandro into the wall. Then it all went straight to the darkness. In my slumber, I witness a man-sized version of the Pop, a grotesque parody of a skinhead with a bloated cube-like head. He stared at me with a dark malice that threatened to consume me. From the darkness, a heavily bandaged Alessandro appeared from the void, chasing and restraining the monstrous Pop. As he continued to slam and eviscerate the Funko, I awoken from my coma. I was in the hospital. 2 weeks have passed. My squadron was there with cards and flowers in memoriam to me. As we hugged each other, I turned and saw that Alessandro, just as bandaged as he was in my dream, was also there. Badly injured and lying in a coma, my strong-mouthed but caring protector, the boys, drew Clockwork Crew and Rock against communists and symbols on his casts as a sign of respect, and I'm glad I can live in a world with such a dedicated crew. The doctors say Alessandro will make it through, though his face will be scarred and some of his fingers missing. The boys and I will be raising funds with our annual Clockwork Cookies Against Communism sale. I still see the Funko in the back of my eye, though I have removed some of my other pops and figures, and still see it lying on my chest as I sleep. Behind the posts I glue flyers onto, even next to Alessandro's hospital bed. One time I swore I heard him mutter, "By Wotan's fade, don't ever open a John Gahagan Funko Pop at midnight. Ever again." I kept his word ever since, and I implore you to do the same.